Press me back to the paper, please. Come off anyway.
Something significant is happening across the United Kingdom right now, and it demands honest coverage. From Crowborough in East Sussex to Newcastle in the north, communities are pushing back against a government asylum policy that many believe has failed them. This isn't fringe politics anymore. This is a genuine national conversation, and the numbers behind it are impossible to ignore. Let's start in Crowborough. Since October 2025, when the government announced plans to house up to 500 male asylum seekers at the town's former military training camp, residents have held 12 consecutive weekly protests. Thousands turned out on January 25 alone, one of the largest demonstrations the town has ever seen. Last Friday, 3 people were arrested outside the site on suspicion of public order offenses, including 2 men and a woman. The community responded by rallying peacefully the very next day. The local MP News Ghani called the site wholly inappropriate, pointing out it remains an active army training facility with around 6,000 personnel passing through annually. The deputy council leader stated bluntly that the Home Office had failed to adequately consult the community. This is not an isolated case. The story really began in Epping last summer. An Ethiopian asylum seeker housed at the Bell Hotel was arrested just 1 week after arriving in the UK and later convicted of sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl and a woman. He was sentenced to 12 months in prison. That single case ignited a chain reaction. Protests outside the Bell Hotel spread to dozens of other towns and cities across Britain. Then in October, the situation worsened when the convicted offender was accidentally released from prison early, triggering fresh outrage both locally and nationally. Justice Secretary David Lammy described it as an egregious failure. So what are the verified facts about asylum hotel costs? According to the National Audit Office, asylum accommodation contracts, originally estimated at £4.5 billion, are now projected to cost £15.3 billion over 10 years, more than 3 times the original figure. At the peak in June 2023, over 51,000 asylum seekers were housed in more than 400 hotels, costing the Home Office £8 million a day. By December 2025, that number had dropped to around 30,600 people across approximately 197 hotels, a figure confirmed by Prime Minister Keir Starmer himself in January 2026. Hotel accommodation costs around £158 per night per person compared to just £20 per night for standard dispersal housing. The government has promised to close all asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament in 2029. But has not yet published a clear, detailed strategy for how that will happen. Meanwhile, communities living near these sites are making their voices heard in Newcastle, Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol, and Cardiff, with regular protests outside hotels that have been running for months. In many of these towns, residents say they were given no advance warning or consultation before asylum seekers were placed in their neighborhoods. The frustration is real. The financial cost is real, and the concerns about public safety and community consultation are legitimate. But it's also important to state clearly, the vast majority of asylum seekers housed in these facilities are people fleeing genuine hardship, war, persecution, and violence. The crimes committed by a small number of individuals do not define an entire population of vulnerable people. What this crisis actually exposes is a systemic failure. A government that has repeatedly overpromised and underdelivered on immigration policy. A contracting system that costs the taxpayer billions while private providers make hundreds of millions in profit. And communities that have been repeatedly left out of decisions that directly affect their lives. The people protesting in Crowborough, Epping, and Newcastle deserve to be taken seriously. So do the asylum seekers trapped in limbo, living in inadequate conditions while their cases drag on for years. Both truths can exist at the same time. What cannot continue is a system that fails everyone and a political class that responds with empty deadlines instead of real solutions.